India Today's team of reporters right outside the Enforcement Directorate office as Sanjay Raut, seated inside, will be questioned by the Enforcement Directorate. Not sure how long this questioning will go on to. Will the ED arrest Sanjay Raut today? All those questions will, a clarity on that will come about in just a little while from now. But our reporters, to give us an understanding on what next for Sanjay Raut at this point. Vidya, who's right there at the Enforcement Directorate's office. Vidya, you've been speaking to many people from the Eknath Shinde camp. Eknath Shinde, now the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. He says he has nothing to do with Sanjay Raut's detention. But nonetheless, what kind of feelers is the government sending out at this point? They seem to be quite ecstatic with Sanjay Raut being detained by the ED.
Well, you know, whatever Deepak Kesarkar might actually say, but certainly the Eknath Shinde camp, you know, is extremely jubilant with the fact that someone who had been targeting them, someone like Sanjay Raut, who had been taking their case since the last month that we had seen when they had parted ways with Uddhav Thackeray, you know, that person is right now being questioned, being grilled. Right now, I am at the office of the Enforcement Directorate, and right here is, you know, Sanjay Raut's brother and his family members are right here. They are hoping that Sanjay Raut would really come out, but at this juncture, you know, even Sanjay Raut, when he went inside, he was very clear that he knows that he would be arrested. In fact, this is exactly what he said, that, you know, I'm sure that ED will arrest me and I will get arrested in this particular case. So certainly, he also knows very clearly as to why the ED has brought him all the way after conducting an elaborate raid at his residence. And they are right now here at the ED office where he is being questioned. At this juncture, the Enforcement Directorate has not said whether they are going to arrest him or not, but this is something that Sanjay Raut has been stating, that he knows that the ED will be arresting him.
I'd really like to ask our producers if we can get Sanjay Raut's reaction soon as he arrived at the ED office. I want our viewers to take a look at what Sanjay Raut said. Very confident, very defiant, and a man who is portraying himself to be a hero at this point. While he's been arrested for money laundering allegations, Sanjay Raut spoke as he was brought to the ED office.
राऊत साहेब इथं आणि शिवसेना इतकी कमजोर नाहीये. खरी शिवसेना काय आहे हे आज तुम्ही पाहताय. मेरे खिलाफ जिस प्रकार से झूठी कार्रवाई, झूठे कागज, झूठे बयान लोगों को मार मार कर पीट कर बनाए जा रहे हैं, ये सिर्फ महाराष्ट्र को कमजोर करने के लिए, शिवसेना को कमजोर करने के लिए. लेकिन शिवसेना कमजोर नहीं होगी, महाराष्ट्र कमजोर नहीं होगा. दूसरी बात, संजय राउत झुकेगा नहीं, न पार्टी छोड़ेगा, न शिवसेना छोड़ेगा.
Right, that was a very confident, confident Sanjay Raut, Uddhav Thackeray's man. All in all, he is the poster boy of the Uddhav Thackeray-led Shiv Sena. And Sanjay Raut, at this point, he's been taken to the Enforcement Directorate office. A lot of talk about him getting arrested today. Very likely that he could get arrested. Formally, the ED could court arrest. This is what we hear by Enforcement Directorate sources telling our India Today reporters on ground, and that's why we're keeping a close watch on these developments. As Sanjay Raut, as much as he say this is vendetta politics, it seems like the Enforcement Directorate at this point has found some incriminating evidence to hold him back, detain him, and maybe even arrest him and investigate this case further. While that's said, while the ED does its job, it seems like Uddhav Thackeray and camp now lobbying support for Sanjay Raut and of course the Shiv Sena under Uddhav Thackeray. We heard Uddhav Thackeray in fact breaking his silence for the first time on summons to or this ED detention itself to on Sanjay Raut, and Uddhav Thackeray very clearly echoing the same feelings. This is vendetta, this is a bid to break Hindus so that there's no party left to protect the real Marathi pride. That's what Uddhav Thackeray says. Let's hear it.
आज सुद्धा संजय राऊतांना कदाचित अटक होण्याची शक्यता आहे. आज त्यांनी रोखोक केलेला आहे, त्याच्यामध्ये काही प्रश्न उपस्थित केले, पण हे सगळं कारस्थान एवढ्या निर्लज्जपणाने चाललेलं आहे की लाज लज्जा शरम सोडून हे कारस्थान चाललेलं आहे. एक दमनशाही, दडपशाही, जे हिंदुत्व त्याला हिंदुत्व हा शब्द बोलायचं कोणाचं जेव्हा धाडस होत होतं तेव्हा शिवसेना प्रमुख हा एकमेव वर्ग होता या देशामध्ये.
All right, I'm going to cut across to Vidya, who's right outside the ED office. Vidya, you know, Uddhav Thackeray, they're mobilizing support outside his home, people outside his house, people outside Sanjay Raut's residence, people we believe have landed up outside the ED office. This kind of support from its true supporters of the Shiv Sena coming together, will that really mean pressurizing the Enforcement Directorate? Will the ED stop short of investigating this case? What exactly is the real logic behind deploying all the Shiv Sena workers across all those locations? The house of Uddhav Thackeray, house of Sanjay Raut, ED office. Is this really going to help at this point? Or rather, will it bring sympathy for Sanjay Raut and Uddhav Thackeray alike?
Well, it certainly would. You know, the sympathy part certainly works for them. Remember, in this particular case, it's not right now. It's since the last many months they have been stating that the Enforcement Directorate has been targeting them, and this is something that goes on to prove what they have been stating. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, in fact, I can just show you there are 3 layers of security that has been put outside, right here outside the Enforcement Directorate, because of all the supporters of Shiv Sena really coming out, as we had seen outside the residence as well as here. You know, this is just one layer of barricading. From the main road to here, there are 3 such layers of barricading that have been put across. You know, when one enters, one person comes near the Enforcement Directorate's office, there are 3 such layers that have been put across. And it is mainly because of these very supporters who have been expressing their support for Sanjay Raut since morning that we have seen outside his house, outside the Enforcement Directorate's office. And that's one of the reasons why so much of security, apart from the CRPF which have been deployed here, is at work right now. The family of Sanjay Raut, including his brother Sunil Raut, are here right now. They are really hoping that, you know, at this juncture that Sanjay Raut will walk back home. However, they also know that probably, as they have been stating, that they might see an arrest today. When will that arrest really happen is something that everyone is really waiting with, you know, to know exactly when the Enforcement Directorate will make its move. But it certainly seems like, you know, from right now to later in the night, it could be any time. And tomorrow, if he's arrested, he would be produced in court where they would seek further remand. But that certainly will happen only if he's arrested. If he's allowed to go back home from here, then certainly there will be no such, you know, legal procedure. He might be called again. He had been called a couple of times earlier as well, but he did not appear before the Enforcement Directorate. And this probably is being seen as a step where he was not cooperating, and that's the reason why he is being brought here after this elaborate raid that happened at his residence.
All right, Vidya, you know, quite naturally, we've seen war of words between 2 sides. One is on the side of the Shiv Sena, where they're all vehemently condemning this ED detention on Sanjay Raut. And on the contrary, the BJP, they're quite ecstatic. And they claim that this was just about to happen. It was due to happen. It's taken a while, but finally the ED has got its catch. Let's hear it.
नाही काय कारवाई चौकशी चालू आहे ना. आता मला नाही माहित अटक, मी काय तिकडे अधिकारी नाहीये, त्यामुळे ते ईडीची चौकशी सुरू आहे. त्यांची चौकशी होऊ द्या. आणि बघा, ते तर म्हणालेत ना, मी काय केलेलं नाही, तर कर नाही त्याला डर कशाला असली पाहिजे. त्यांची चौकशीला ते सामोरे जाणार बोलत होते. आज चौकशी होऊ द्या, त्याच्यातून काय पुढे येईल ते तुम्हाला कळेलच. त्यामुळे ते महाविकास आघाडीचे मोठे नेते होते, त्यामुळे त्यांनी तुम्हाला सांगितलेलं आहे दर दिवशी तुम्ही 9 वाजता त्यांची बाईट घेत होते.
We have never demanded any action against Mr. Sanjay Raut, although he has spoken very bad words about it, and that may be a spontaneous reaction of one MLA, which is not correct. We are not against taking any personal action against anybody. If he has done anything wrong, then he will have to face the consequences. And if he hasn't done anything, then I don't see any, because when the central agencies take any action against anybody, they will have to produce them before the court, and there they will have to produce the evidences against that person. So that process is always there.
It is a corruption done by Sanjay Raut. Because of that, ED has done this investigation. And in the early morning itself, I have told Madam, and when that incident happened with me about Hanuman Chalisa, that time itself I have told See, after a few months or few days, 101% this Sanjay Raut is going to be get arrested by ED and he's going to be there with under custody of ED. Because already many cases of his, everything was coming out in Maharashtra and we knew in and out. The way he was working like an agent of Mahavikas Aghadi from last 2.5 years, he was working like agent madam. He was working for all big builders, all big shot in from Mumbai and Maharashtra like an agent only.
All I'd like to say is, and I would like to remind the people of this country is, that all the ED action and proactiveness has been reserved for a select few, which is India's opposition. Whether we look at West Bengal, whether we look at Maharashtra, whether we also look at the engineered rebellion that has happened in Maharashtra, where those who had ED cases against them have been warned, who have been told to move to the Bharatiya Janata Party side of the Shiv Sena, and that is what you're seeing. Their cases have closed overnight. Their cases have also been forgotten overnight. This only shows that ED is working as an ally to the Bharatiya Janata Party, the central government, and is now the extended department of the BJP and helping them continue to create problems in the opposition. And talking about the charges against Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma when he was in the Congress party were also very serious. What happened to that? What conclusion has it been reached to? 27 times over ED summons have been increased, ED notices have been increased, and if you look at that number from pre-2014 level to now, it will only show you that those 27 times the number has increased, has come only on the opposition leaders.
All right, Vidya, for more on that. Vidya, you know, we heard what Priyanka Chaturvedi said extensively, that there are many more leaders of the BJP, right now the BJP, who were earlier with the Shiv Sena, be it Bhavna Gawle, Narayan Rane, Yamini Yadav, Yashwant Yadav, Anil Parab. These are all leaders who had ED cases on them. Extensively, the ED were investigating those cases, but there was never any finality when it came to those cases. Now that they've all joined the BJP or the Shinde camp, it seems like all those allegations have been washed off. The ED not on their tail any longer. And this, of course, is a natural question to ask, that it's mostly the opposition leaders or those who raise questions on the government as such, who really face the ire of the Enforcement Directorate, or who's come under scanner now. Sanjay Raut has said this time and again, only because I don't buckle, I don't bow down, I will not join them, this is my fate.
Well, that's precisely what most of the people who are still in Shiv Sena have been stating, including Uddhav Thackeray and Sanjay Raut, that this is because of the ED. Remember, even the first day when the entire Eknath Shinde camp had gone to Surat, this was exactly what Sanjay Raut had also said at that very time, stating very clearly that the entire action of these people is because of the fact that ED has been threatening these people. These people have gone away because of the threat of ED. However, you know, if you look at it, on the other side, when you speak to the BJP people, they very clearly say that if there is a case that has really come up, shouldn't that be really investigated? Shouldn't the Enforcement Director hold its hand just because these people are in the opposition, so investigation should not be done? So certainly these are war of words that will go on for now. At the moment, what is really important is to really see what Enforcement Directorate is doing. They are certainly interrogating. Remember, it's been about half an hour since Sanjay Raut has been, you know, at the office of the Enforcement Directorate. So certainly he will be questioned about the number of documents that they have recovered from his residence. But it will also be worthwhile to see whether they really go ahead with an arrest of Sanjay Raut, as Raut himself has been predicted that he would be arrested. But investigation on what front, whether there is any angle of money laundering that really happened in this particular Patra Chawl, whether Sanjay Raut and his wife were connected, whether Sanjay Raut himself personally was involved in this, all that really has to be seen by the Enforcement Directorate before they really come to any conclusion about Sanjay Raut not cooperating with their investigation and whether he'll be placed under arrest.
Well, a very crucial time for Sanjay Raut, as he's right now at the ED office. India Today, of course, keeping a hawk eye on those developments, because very likely that Sanjay Raut could be arrested any time now. That's what we hear could end up happening, considering there are a lot of unanswered questions that were posed to Sanjay Raut, but the ED did not really gather enough information on that front, and since it's all left open-ended, the ED now mulling over keeping him in custody so that they could probe this better. Now, while that said, we see a lot of the opposition leaders, including Navneet Rana, who spoke to India Today's Sneha Murdani, where she, of course, raised questions on a man, Sanjay Raut, who's an editor-in-chief of the mouthpiece of Shiv Sena, Samna, a man who's just an editor-in-chief accumulating this kind of wealth over the years. Is it not suspicious? It's right that the ED has arrested him or should be arresting him. It will happen in due course, and they will be probing all those allegations which are linked eventually to Uddhav Thackeray. That's what Navneet Rana had said. Let's listen in.
We are picking up from our sources within the ED that Sanjay Raut continues to not cooperate during the investigations. First of all, how do you react to that? He's been saying that when he communicated already that he will be available post the 7th of August, then what is this drama about?
See, I'll tell you one thing. He will create all these things. He will do all nonsense things. He's bought in all Uddhav Thackeray's gundes on road. He will do all nonsense things because he's not clean on his part, madam. If he would have cleaned, then he would have attended all the inquiries, given notice given by the ED department. Now all the ED department has reached to his house, and they all are searching about this. If it is clean, he should answer them. Why he's not cooperating him? Why
But
he's
to
not
ask you,
cooperating with
Navneet
the
Rana,
department?
you know, MPs have been saying, Shiv Sena MPs have been saying that he is also a member of parliament. So what is wrong with him wanting to perform his duty as a parliamentarian and attend the proceedings in the house?
See, that is what, when they have worked against, they have misused their power against me. As a member of parliament, they have put me behind the bar only in the name of Hanuman Chalisa. I was supposed to chant Hanuman Chalisa in front of Uddhav Thackeray ji. They have done a same misuse of the power, and same thing. It is not used. They are not misusing the power against him. They are using their power. What power the law has given to the ED department. All the member of parliament from Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, both houses, member has taken initiative and given all the powers to the department. He should go and face the department's investigation. Why he's not doing so? Because he's a corruption. He's done corruption. He's a corrupted leader. See, tell me one thing. A simple editor of some newspaper, from where he gets so much of property that he have no answer to answer this department? If he is so clean, then he should go in front of them and answer everything. Where Alibaug's property comes from, where this Goregaon's Patra Chawl, this issue comes from, and 25 to 30 companies still are there, where he is involved directly and indirectly with all the big shot builders from Maharashtra, where their all inquiry comes from. See, from Mahavikas Aghadi, he became an agent of Mahavikas Aghadi, and he was working and he's doing corruption for these people. See,
Navneet Rana, are you saying, my question to you is, are you saying that in spite of the parliament being in session, Sanjay Raut should have not attended parliament and should have continued answering the questions that the ED has been asking him both on the 20th and the 27th of July, when the parliament was in session?
Madam, that is what I'm saying. When he was there in Delhi, main chief office is only in Delhi. He would have removed 2-3 hours for the inquiry. Why is not given inquiries time for them? See, parliamentarian is made to make a law, and they have to work according to law and constitution in Savidhan. Why he is not working according to that, madam? Why is being behind the parliament session is running? Because of that, I cannot give time. You are there for justice, to give justice, and Maharashtra people are waiting for that justice. All Maharashtrian people who work day and night, whose hard money is there, and he's done corruption, taking their money.
All right, with such anger, the opposition, the leaders there, who's Navneet Rana and Ravi Rana, both the husband and wife, have said this time and again that Sanjay Raut is a corrupt man. In fact, Ravi Rana went on to call him a 420, saying that he's left hundreds of Marathi families miserable owing to the scam that he was involved in. And that's what they say this time and again, that ED had to do this much earlier. Der aaye, durust aaye. That's more or less the summary of what the Ranas have said. But, you know, Vidya, whatever the leaders say, at the end of it, it's what proof the Enforcement Directorate gathers. And we really want to understand how many years has this case been on? How long has the ED been probing this case? One can only ask, why has it taken so long for the ED to detain Sanjay Raut if there were enough evidences that they must have gathered in the course of this investigation? What's taken them so many years?
One, Nabila, the custodial interrogation really does not happen just because there is an evidence. The court also will have to see whether where the Enforcement Directorate will have to say that the reason for arrest is also because the person has not really been cooperating. In fact, we just spoke to Sanjay Raut and he very clearly said, right now at this very juncture, we had asked him about this and he said that he has been cooperating. In fact, every document that they have opened it up for Enforcement Directorate to see. So their bit will obviously be that they have been cooperating with the Enforcement Directorate, but apart from the evidence, the ED will have to show that Sanjay Raut was not cooperating with their investigation. That is why they had to arrest him. Of course, this will really be something that will be really argued in the court once the arrest is made. But in this particular case, if you see, this Patra Chawl has been going on for a long time. This entire investigation earlier involved, in fact at this juncture, also involves the Vadhavans, the DHFL group people, who almost have, if you take Yes Bank or just about every big case that right now that we have, you have the Vadhavans involved in it. And this particular case also, including Nitin Raut, who has been arrested in this case, who is supposed to be a close aide of Sanjay Raut. Apart from him, there are the Vadhavans who have been taken in custody and charge sheeted in this particular case. Investigations pertaining to Enforcement Directorate are with regards to money laundering. What has been happening with that entire investigation is also to show that the money that had been usurped, which belonged to the people in general, that money has been usurped and used somewhere else. So all that entire connection has to be shown by the Enforcement Directorate in this particular case. As soon as they arrest, from that time, the clock starts ticking. For them, they have to show within the next 3 months that they have enough proof and that they can charge sheet Sanjay Raut. So
it's not going to be an easy task for the ED also to arrest Sanjay Raut. They've got to have enough evidence and reasoning before court to why they want him in custody. Can they carry on with the investigation without keeping him in custody? What justification will the ED provide before court to keep Sanjay Raut with them so that he does not influence the people associated with this scam? Those are questions that we'll have clarity to in due course of time, as Sanjay Raut right now is in ED office. ED is right now questioning him. If satisfactory answers do not come by, very likely the ED will ask for his custody.